Good morning, everybody. Welcome to We Have Something to Say with Kenneth and Leonard Watkins. Thank you for joining us, or those who are going to join us in a few minutes. We appreciate it. Got a lot to say today, a lot to discuss. Ken, let Kenneth go forward first, and um, go for it, Kenneth.
What we talking about first?
Well, you know what? I'll go forward first.
Okay. All right.
We are watching and witnessing something that could be a transformative cabinet that will have consequential, well, consequence, not the word I'm looking for, will have
Significant,
thank you, consequences for our community.
detrimental.
And we are almost powerless to do anything about it. With some stuff we can do about it. But what I am alarmed at, I'm really, really alarmed at, and it's not me because I've been trying to do my part, is this seemingly comatose state our community is in, that we are not planning for what can be consequential to our community, specifically to our community. What I noticed over the last week is everybody that he put into the community, in my opinion, do not like Black people. I say that to say, because as some of them were introduced, the terminology, the language that they used is symbolic or has been associated with being African American. DEI. DEI may encompass a lot of stuff, and it does. But when you say DEI, most people, particularly most white people, see an unqualified Black person. It just is what it is. Whenever they start talking about DEI, they put up a Black face. Harvard president Bill Ackman says she's a DEI hire. Kamala Harris, she's a DEI candidate. Because symbolically, that's what they do with terms that we come up with to help us survive. Woke. We didn't invent woke, but we definitely made woke a word in our community for us to stay vigilant. Not for us to be violent, but for us to be vigilant about things that are happening to us that people say are not happening to us. Spike Lee's School Days, what he said at the end, wake up. And the nominee for the Secretary of Defense literally said in his acceptance of the nominee, I will get rid of DEI and wokeness. And we ignore it at our own peril. Tulsi, what's her name? Tulsi, what's her name last name? Gabby.
Gabbard.
Now, Tulsi Gabbard is not a friend of Black folks. Stephen Miller, and I want us people to gets into this. Hates Hispanics more than he hates us, but he's not a friend of Black folks. I don't know about his chief of staff. She seems to be an insider that he trusts. And I bring this up to say, I have been in conversations, well, not me, because my friends, some of my closest friends are talking about this. I would be surprised to ask Kenneth, are you and your friends talking about what are we going to do to mitigate it because it all starts in small groups. What are we going to do as a community to strengthen our institutions? What are we doing to strengthen our businesses? Because contrary to popular belief, a strong African-American community is good for the country. And we seem not to have the will. A lot of people don't like me saying this. I just don't give a fuck if you're offended. We have the ability, but not the will to strengthen what needs to be strengthened in our community. Our return on investment, a lot of people going to be pissed off about this. I don't care. From tithing to the black churches has not kept up with the return we're supposed to get. We do not have anything that will give us access to capital markets. We have not created anything since the end of segregation that helps us not have access to it. I've said this numerous other times. During segregation, there were 9 freestanding insurance companies that were supported solely by us. There were way more than 9 banks that were supported solely by us. There were, I'm not going to say as many black businesses, they were more stable black businesses because they were supported solely by us. And the reason they were supported solely by us, they gave good services. Some of them were bad, some were good. It's because your money almost wasn't welcome anywhere else. No, man. Hey, man, bullshit. Your people don't steal from you no more than anybody else. That's the mentality. They don't steal from you any more than anybody else. They give just as good of services as anyone else. The problem you have is that you don't allow them to make any mistakes and to make up for those mistakes. And their profit margins are so thin. I'm sorry, I'm let you talk. So thin.
Hold on. I'm saying in reference to what Philip, I think he's talking about people who are stealing from the businesses. I think that's what he's talking about.
That's how people steal from us. We have too many. Okay. My bad. If that's what you meant, Philip, please accept my apologies. But we tend to run away from the process because of one individual. No, they do not provide just a good service.
Yeah, you were right. My bad.
Bullshit. Philip, let me give you a quick example. I'm going to give you a quick example of Atlanta. When I came to school in Atlanta, the best bricklayers and stonemasons in the city of Atlanta were black brick masons and brick masons in the city were African American. Hands down, it wasn't even a competition. They laid down the stone for the majority of the houses in the city because they were just that good. What ended up happening was when because it was we who got behind the National Immigration Act and Quota Act that would not have gotten passed without our community. This is just true. Go look it up. You don't have to take my word for it. We let other people in who came in and undercut the prices. And most people went for cheaper, not quality. It's the same thing you see happening now with so many Chinese products. It's not that they are not superior. They're just cheaper. Go to TikTok. Just go to TikTok and look at what that is a strategy. But to have this, because what you're saying is that, let's give you another example. What you're saying is that a black landscaper does not cut grass as good as Hispanic or Mexican landscapers. That's just not true. It's just not true. But in your mind, your one bad experience with the black business, and I've had this conversation before, has now allowed you to cloud every experience. And so it's a circular firing squad. Because guess what? When you don't patronize your business because one mistake of another business, good businesses no longer have the revenue to overcome their mistakes. And they don't have access to the same loans, the same lines of credit because of race. Now, we can go into another direction and start talking about, you don't know if that's true. I am not going to, in this 1 hour, try to convince you of what redlining is, how unequal loaning is, and without resources, it's hard to grow. and to keep up with other people who are getting resources. Period. It's just how it is. But if your mindset is that I'm not going to shop with Black people because they don't give as good a service, you're in a circular firing squad. So that's just not true. But your mentality is that it is true. You want to add something before I go on? So, to get back to our point, if you and your friends as a group don't start forming groups to strengthen economically and socially the Black community, and you keep outsourcing and giving your money away, we are checkmated. Period. You don't have the numbers to win a national election. You only have the numbers to affect the national election. You don't have the numbers to outright win a state election. You only have the numbers to affect it. The city of Atlanta is one of the few places where we have the numbers outright to win an election locally. And are you having this discussion? Here's what I'm trying to, because I'm all over the place now. I was trying to stick to a point. Are you having the discussions with your friends? I saw that. Are you having the discussions with your friends about what you're going to do to mitigate the harm that is coming for your community? That's going to start on January 20th. And if you don't believe me, listen to what he thought was the most important thing to have. Was that a press conference he did the other day, Kenneth, when he said, we're going to go after schools and their endowments and pretty much pay back people? Did you see that the other day? So he gave a press conference saying that all these universities that have policies in place for equity and diversity, he's going to direct the Justice Department to sue them and fine them up into the amount of their endowment, and to use those fines to repay back people who think they were victimized by DEI. Are you having those conversations, or are you just acting like it's not going to happen? Because I literally was at a football game, which I don't go to. Kenneth knows I don't really watch anymore. And guys literally did not want to talk about this, as if to say it's not happening. Smart guys. You cannot get through this. You can get through it on a singular basis if you're lucky. But the damage that's coming for your community may be how's the word looking for, Kenneth? Not to be able to be prepared. Anyway, go ahead, Kenneth.
Well, to answer your question, I'll say this. People are in shock about what happened. And they're burned out. Now you're saying about people having conversations. I haven't had conversations. We've had the conversations I've had with people is anger. And they basically going through what they call the 7 stages of grief and all of that. They're trying to process all of that. Now, to your point that, okay, we need to start creating mechanisms in place, putting mechanisms in place to mitigate some of the stuff that's coming down the pipe. I understand that. I understand that part. I understand that. But we're still trying to process this. It's been 2 weeks. Like, for example, almost everybody I've talked to about this, they don't even want to watch the news anymore. They don't want to do that anymore. Yeah, they don't want to do that anymore because they're just burned out. They're so frustrated with the whole everything that happened and what they foresee coming at us, that they just can't. They just need time. Now, I understand you're saying that we don't have time, but we got to process this, man. This is that was one of the that was a devastating turn of events. And the fact that he now holds the Republicans or Trump MAGA people control the Senate, the House, and you can pretty much say this the Supreme Court. So they control all three branches of government. We don't. It's hard to imagine any relief coming from any part of the government at this point. So we do need to strategize. I agree with you on that. But it's going to take a little bit of time for people to get to the point where, okay, let's have some concrete ideas. Because I'm really trying to tell you that this, I'm one of those people. I'm having a hard time processing this, and the fact that and someone told me this yesterday, and I'm not exactly sure of the numbers, but it kind of sort of makes sense. There were 12 million Democrats that didn't even vote in the election, or they voted for Trump. 12 million. If half of those 12 million had voted, she would have won the presidency. Philip said, add him to the panel. He just sent me a text. You know how to do that.
I told him to send me an email. I would love to. But he got to send me an email.
Yes. Did you put your email in there? How's he gonna send you an email if you don't have your email?
Valid point. See, I don't think I'm the smartest guy in the room. See how I just took that.
We both know that.
All the hooping and the hollering and getting all that.
We both know you ain't the smartest one in the room. Let's get that real clear. Anybody ever said that?
See how I did that without who you're talking to and blah 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 blah. See how I did that just so civilly and as you keep talking shit.
That's what I'm here for. That's my job.
No.
But I mean, we the fact that processing this whole thing has been and he sent you his too.
I got it. I can read. You about to make me curse.
Well, that will stop you.
You're right.
Yeah, processing this whole thing, it's going to take a few weeks. And we have to strategize about what to do, because this is not a normal situation. I don't care what anybody says. This thing that happened is not normal, and under no stretch of anybody's imagination is this shit normal. She should not have lost by that great number. That's ridiculous.
It wasn't a big number. Biden won by 4%. Biden won by 4%. Right now, with the numbers being counted, he's won by 2%.
Well, what's the number? Because the last I saw it was like 6 million.
No, it's not 6 million. It's like he's right at 2.5 million. It's not 6. Biden won by 6.
But just think about it though. If we had the point I'm trying to make is, okay, if she's losing by 2 million, if half of those people had voted, she would have won the election easily. And I'm gonna say, I get black people get tired of being blamed. Our people, the numbers for our people were down considerably in all the major cities. They were down.
I'm not. That's not what we're talking about. We're not talking about no post-mortem. We're talking about what we can do now. Then and goddamn.
Okay. Well, the point I'm trying to make is we have the thing of it is this. One, we have to get back to. We have to strategize not only personally and economically, but we have to strategize politically, because as long as he has as long as he has control of the House of Representatives, anything that he wants, he will get.
No, he won't right now. Okay, so let's talk about the positive.
Hold on. They have. Let's say this: the only thing they can't get through is a constitutional amendment, because you need 2/3 of the Senate and 2/3 of the House. He won't get that. But Any piece of legislation that's not required to be an amendment, they can pass through easily with a simple majority.
Doesn't all legislation doesn't I sent you an email, Philip. Doesn't all legislation has to go through the Senate, right?
No, a simple majority
of the Senate, right?
No, both houses. The
House
of Representatives and the Senate. Yeah, I'm saying both the houses, the Senate and the House of Representatives. It only needs a simple majority, one. That's all it needs to pass. Now, if it's something, there's certain things that you do need 60 votes for or a certain number for, but for the most part, everything is a simple majority. So we have to strategize in order to get. I'm not sure how many seats leads they have right now. I'm not sure, but we have to go and get those win back the House to stop some of his agenda. Because let me tell you something. The first thing that's going to happen is this. Well, in 4 years, when J.D. Vance runs for president, and he's going to run, hell, he might be president. I told y'all before that within a year, they're going to invoke the 25th Amendment to get Trump out of there. That's what's going to happen because of mental defects. That's what they're going to do. That was the plan all along. He gets reelected. All he wanted to do was get reelected to avoid being prosecuted. Once he's president, he can't be prosecuted for those federal cases. And if he is, he can actually pardon himself. There's nothing in the Constitution that says he can't pardon himself. That's the only reason he ran again, to get out of those things.
That's done. He won. They dropped they agreed to not to even sentence him yesterday. Jack Smith's resigning as of yesterday. Those cases, cool. You said we need to strategize politically. Okay.
Right. So Vance is going to take over. So we need to get in 2 years. We have 2 years to take over the House. Yeah, there's also some Senate seats coming up for election in 2 years. But we at least need to get the House to stop some of the stuff, to stop the bleeding, to mitigate some of the bleeding. That's what we need to do. We can't sit here and allow this to continue. Because this is not. I've been saying this for years. I've told people saying this for years, and people don't understand that point I'm trying to make. Republicans have been playing chess. Democrats play checkers. The long game. The whole process of taking over the Supreme Court started after Roe versus Wade was passed. That was 1973. They played a long game. That's why they're better at this than Democrats are. Democrats worry about initial things that's going on now. They were trying to figure out how to take control of the Supreme Court since 1973. It took them 50 years. Well, a little less than 50 years to take control of the Supreme Court, just so they can overturn Roe versus Wade and anything else that they don't like. So now they have control of the Supreme Court. They've had it for a few years. And Clarence Thomas and Samuel Alito are going to retire. So Trump is going to appoint 2 more younger people for that position, for those seats on the Supreme Court. That's going to be worse than them 2, which is hard to imagine, but there are people worse than them. I mean, look at this pick for Attorney General, which is crazy to me. As I said this the other day, you have one sexual predator nominating another sexual predator to be Attorney General. What's going to happen with that? All civil rights cases are going to either be stopped or gutted.
Hey, Pete.
What's up?
Can you hear us? Welcome to the show.
Good morning. Can you hear me?
Yep. You're the first one brave enough to show your face. So we thank you just for that. Look, just for that, we thank you. Welcome to the show.
The rest of them scared to come on here. Like we gonna jump on them or something like that. Marion McMillan Jr. Been talking shit for 3 years and don't want to come on here.
Hey, Kenneth. First of all, good morning and thank you.
You got the
Let me interrupt you, Kenneth, for a quick minute.
Yeah.
we can hear you.
I think there's a delay.
Are you on something else? Because if you're on something else, it'll come up as a delay. But it sounds fine to us, but it's going to sound like a delay to you. But it sounds fine to us. But I know what you're going through. That's why I shut down Instagram every time I go live. It's going to sound fine to us, but it sounds like a delay to you.
Gotcha.
So turn yours down and then we can hear you. Go for it. You won't hear your delay.
Okay, I got out of Facebook. Is that better?
Yeah, man, you were fine to us. It's
Perfect.
only
all right. Let me back up a little bit and correct something that was stated earlier. You mentioned about our people doing just as good as anybody else and providing just as good as services. I don't disagree with that to a point, but let me tell you this. I currently have 3 LLCs, 2 in this country, 1 in another country. And what I've discovered is that our people tend to, number one, I don't like when people say, hey, can you give me the hookup? You know, when you have a business, you have to work. So people need to understand that, you know, you're not going to ask the other people for a hookup. So why ask me? I get that. So I don't ask for people to give me breaks or hookups.
Me and you both.
One thing I will say is,
I'm asking both of y'all.
Like Kenneth just said, that is very important. Some people play chess, some people play checkers. Our people play checkers. And what I mean by that is we'll get a job and we'll give a quote, and that quote will be the highest freaking quote that they can possibly give us for the simple fact that they try to get it all in one scoop. I always said, as a businessman, I'd rather get the service from 100 people than a big service from 1. And that's what we do. When I pursue people, I've got a rental in Chattanooga, and trying to get people to come and do services, they charge the highest prices. And I'm asking, like, why is this? And I've priced everything out before they usually come. But my point is, we try to gouge each other. I don't mind supporting our people. Our people do amazing work. Kenneth and I attended a college university of the architect that designed most of the stuff in Atlanta. So trust me, I understand that part. We provide great service, but we have bad business ethics. Rolling from that part, I'll move forward to where we are. Your question and point is, how do we fix it? You know how we fix it? We've got to fix what got us all here to begin with, and that's sticking together and being family. And the problem is we don't want to work with each other because this society has taught us to be against each other. It's truly worked to purposely keep us divided. Divided, you conquer everybody. And that's the problem. And until we figure out how to work with each other, and don't get me wrong, we see other cultures, and this is the one thing that I really despise about my own people. We don't go anywhere. We don't travel. We don't travel to other countries. We don't travel to other cultures to see how things are done. They have the same issues we have in the U.S. The only reason it's bad in the U.S. is because U.S. is more capitalistic than these other countries are. But they will work together. I have watched Hispanics live in a house with 15 people, fight every day. But you know what they do every morning at 6 o'clock? They all get up and take their behinds to work somewhere for the good of the whole. And we can't get past our own emotions to work with each other to get things done. We take things personally and we let it cross over into business. And that's where our problem is. Until we figure out how to put our emotions aside and get business done. Look, you can be mad at somebody after 5 p.m. at the end of the business day. You want to fight them? Fight them after the work is done, but get the work done first. You know, we got to start working together. We got to start working in groups. We got to start collaborating with each other because we have more talent than this world can even handle as a people. But until we start working together with each other and realize that nobody's an island, it's not going to work. You know, I was fortunate enough to have a partner who helped me build our retirement plan. And, you know, as a result of that, we now have branched out. We have something to leave for our kids. We're not going to leave them any money. We're not going to leave them any debt, but they will have assets. And that's what we have to do. We are focused on, we are the largest group of consumers in this country. We don't produce anything, we consume everything. And the things we do produce, we get from the wrong suppliers. I import from China. Why do people rather buy things here in the US than do the same thing the US does to get the products for them, which is go to China or India or Mexico or Canada? See, we have this hang up where, and they've gotten everybody thinking in mindset that, oh, we're not going to get products from China, or we're not going to buy this from goods from China and all that stuff. But the bottom line is they're selling you a bill of goods that they're doing themselves. We've got to wise up. Like you said, wake up. Once we figure out how the game is played, like you said, you're playing chess. They're playing chess with us. We're playing checkers. You got to think 7, 8 moves ahead. Now I have learned the way. And Kenneth will tell you, I live in another country. I learned how other cultures work and how the systems work. And I saw how we are in a bubble in the US. And they want to keep us in that bubble because they don't want us to learn how things work in the rest of the world. Let me give you an example. In the US, we use central air. Central air is only used in the US. Central air system costs you, if you got to replace it, it's going to cost you anywhere between $5,000 to $15,000, $20,000 to fix or replace your central air system. Nobody anywhere else in the world uses central air. Everybody uses more efficient mini split systems. They cost a fraction of the cost, and you only use them in the rooms you need to use them in. But that's an example of how we feed into this, oh, well, we have the best technology. No, we don't. We don't. What we do is whatever we produce in the US, we charge the most money and say it's the best. It's not. It's not efficient. It's lining people's pockets. Look at government contracts. I single-handedly watched the purchase of products when I was deployed in Iraq of things that cost $5 from the hardware store being charged $150 each. And that's just one example. So it's not just a matter of our people not doing what they're supposed to. We allow other people to do the same thing that we do to each other. And we've got to change that mindset. And we can't keep saying, oh, well, they're not letting us do this. They're not allowing us to do this. There is no longer an excuse because we have all the resources we need. But you know what it requires? It requires you to study and it requires you to work. And people don't read, people don't want to study. I study more now and read more than I ever read in college because I'm still learning. I'm learning about people. I'm learning about things. I'm learning about services. I'm still studying tech when I don't even need to. I retired 2 years ago, but I'm still studying. I'm studying AI governance. Why? Because I want to understand what's going to be taking over everybody else's job so that I can be there to be a consultant. That's how you play chess. I don't have to study. I don't need to go to any more schools, but I'm going to continue studying until I can. And I'm going to get all the knowledge I can, and I'm going to give it to someone else. I'm not going to charge somebody to learn what I've already done the work for. We always want to charge somebody or make somebody pay for something that we can freely give to them and get our blessings. But see, we're too individual to understand that it's a collaborative effort. If you help this person, 2 people will help you later on.
I want to say, well, Kenneth, you go first. I'll hold my response. Kenneth, you're on mute. Now, see, when you say I shouldn't mute you, I'll let you have control or nothing, because this is what you do.
Okay. First of all, take that bass out your voice when you're talking to me.
I don't have a lot.
Second of all,
let me respond to that.
Hold on.
I'll let you go. Wait, I want to respond to that. I don't have a lot of bass in my voice in the first place. So when I do decide to use it, you just take it as a favor to me. All right. And I don't have a lot in there anyway.
Hell to the no.
Sound like Philip. Philip sounds like Barry White. And compared to Philip, I sound like an octave. So when I do this, you just need to go, I owe him that one. Now go ahead.
First of all, damn that. and I muted myself because I'm coughing. I got a post homecoming little cold, so I'm trying not to cough on the air and interrupt anybody. So that's why I mute myself. And plus, I'm muting myself so I won't interrupt anybody and all that. So the bass, keep that bass out your voice when you talk to me. Now, getting to my point.
For the sake of continuity, I'm gonna leave that one alone. Go forward.
Thank you. Now you made me forget what I was gonna say. You know I have a limited capacity, mental capacity. You know, you just made me. Well, I would say this. I agree with Philip on so many levels. We do need to think strategically and learn as much as possible. We and I've fallen into this as well. Just relying on prior knowledge to get through life. And we need to learn. We need to continuously learn. I've found out, like when I started teaching these particular courses I'm teaching now, I got started reading one of the books, just reading the book, and got very into it. And this is a history book, so it's not something that will help us. Well, I guess it will help us strategically if I can get my students to understand how history impacts what's going on now, which is one of my goals. But it's just the fact of being a lifelong learner. Once you're a lifelong learner, if you continue to be a lifelong learner, you will always be aware of what's going on, and you can see things that are coming down the pipeline. Stuff that's coming toward us now. Those of us who actually pay attention to politics, world events, and all that stuff, we saw what was coming if he won. We saw that. We've been trying to warn people. Now it's coming to fruition because people didn't take what we said seriously. Not to say that us, three of us, or all of us who are saying this are some great thinkers. I'm not saying that we're smarter than anybody else, because they always try. One of the things that they try to paint us as people who oppose the conservative thought process. They try to paint us as liberals that, that's not looking out for the common man, or don't care. All we care about is higher thinking, higher echelon things or whatever. We saw what was going to happen. And as Marion said a minute ago, I'll say it on there. He said that the first year, everything's going to be good for us because it's still going to be under Biden's economic system, Bidenomics, basically. After that, it's going to be Trump stuff. We're going to have one more year of things progressing. And then they're going, by the second year, the beginning of the second year, things are going to start going down for us. And we need to be prepared for that. That's the chess part. Start to get prepared now for what's coming.
Which is the subject we're supposed to be talking about.
Well, we are talking about it. We are talking about it. You sit here wasting all this damn time trying to add a little bass to your voice to keep up with Philip that we getting off task here. You don't want to keep bringing us off task.
Look, I have no problem mimicking success. So if I think Philip's voice will get me to a better success, watch me go do it.
Okay. But we need to start, we need to do that. As I tell people this, and we've said this before, iron sharpens iron. If you are the smartest person in your crew, you need a new crew. I always want to be around people who know things that I don't know. That's my thought process. I know some things that other people don't know. I want to be around people who can teach me stuff every day. Teach me something new. When I was in college, I sort of briefly dated someone who was a veterinarian, and I went with her to do a necropsy on a horse, which is an autopsy, and I didn't even know that part. And while I was with her, I got to see she took out the intestines of the thing. I did not know horses had intestines that large. It took up a whole floor. It was that long. I say that to say this. I learned something just by being with her. So we need to get with people who are not just like-minded in terms of thinking strategically, but also like-minded in we want to learn from each other. One thing I like about Leonard is I joke with him all the time, talk about him all the time, but Leonard's a very smart dude. Leonard makes me want to up my game. I'm actually jealous of his intelligence. Don't tell him I said that shit because he get the big ass head. I'm actually jealous of his intelligence and his knowledge. So yeah, see what I'm saying? Somebody told him, and now look at him. Look how he's acting. So, but that's what we need. We need people in our lives that's going to teach us things that we didn't know. Like actually, when I ran into Philip, remember I ran into you, Philip, a couple of years ago in the airport. Just out of we both getting on a plane, and we run into each other like that. And he started telling me about Panama and the things he was doing in Panama. I was like, damn, that's smart as hell. I like that. So it got me thinking on that level. So that's what we need to do. That's something that we need to do. We need to make sure that we are thinking strategically, have forward thinking, and around people who are like-minded in that way. It's on you, sir.
Before I comment, I want you to do something for me because I earned this. I want you to tell me how proud you are of me for not jumping in and interrupting, because you know how hard it was for me. I need to hear it. Like I gotta hear it. I need to hear praise every once in a while.
You know what? You got your one compliment for the day. You got your one compliment for me.
No, do that. You know how hard it was.
Listen. I'm only handing out one compliment to Leonard Watkins a day. I can't do more than one.
Okay.
You're gonna have to just imagine that I said that.
You spoiled, Doc. You spoiled. Let me say this. Philip and I, until I met him today, we are very much aligned in the same way. So let me touch on a couple of things that you said.
Hold up, you say you met him today?
Have I met you before?
We went to high school together.
I don't remember. Philip,
hold up. You're 83, I'm 84, he's 85.
Do you know how many people went to high school? You know how many things I've been through in life? I don't even have that much muscle memory. I don't even have that.
Leonard, you letting him gaslight you. Just ignore him and continue on with
gaslighting him.
Philip, it's been going on all week. So many people gaslight me this week. Let me say this.
So it's my fault he got long-term memory loss. That's my fault. I ain't got nothing to do with me. I'm just pointing out the obvious.
You know how hard
it is. Go ahead. Continue, please.
Philip, please forgive me. Charge it to my head, not my heart.
Oh, no, we good. Look, don't let him trigger you.
Okay. Yeah, he know how to do it. So let me say this. The biggest word, the most important word Philip used that has been so damaged in our community is trust. We just simply refuse to trust one another. We let one mistake throw out a whole process.
Yep.
If the three of us get together and I say, Philip, you're in charge of the money, but we have a good idea. And for whatever reasons, just using Philip as an example, Philip embezzles the money. We will shut down the whole fucking process instead of replacing the person. Trust in our community, not to trust one another, is deadly. It is the most, without trust, the whole system of the United States is based on trust. The whole monetary system is based on trust. Paper money is a trust. And we refuse to trust one another. The question is, let me back up. I don't want to get off subject. The question right now is, in an emergency, how do we mitigate some of the damage that we know? We no longer can guess. Well, take it back. There's nothing wrong with hoping for the best, but preparing for the worst. That requires trust. It requires trust in one another. It requires little things like this. 3 people who get together and say, man, you know what? I'm going to trust you because I'm never going to catch up with you in the knowledge of what you learned over your life. Like if Philip comes in and says, Leonard, I've been doing this now for 20 years. I'm in Panama, blah, 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 blah. I know this particular skill set. It does me no good if I don't know to start. I can question him, but at some point I have to trust him to say, you handle that, because I never can catch up with you in knowledge. We do it every day with other folk.
That's right.
Every day we do it with other folk. And what I was trying to say earlier, Philip, when we were texting, I'm so glad you got on here, is, like I know that most Black businesses, and I'm dealing with one right now, operate on these thin margins, very thin. And you operate on those thin margins most of the times because your revenue is not high enough to overcome mistakes.
Right.
Even mistakes that other people can overcome may be catastrophic to that business. And the reason it's catastrophic to that business is because they can't generate the revenue. The reason they can't generate the revenue, it's like a circular firing squad. The reason a lot of times they can't generate the revenue is because folks won't walk in or use them for fear that this Black business is going to screw them. And let me be clear, there are a lot of Black businesses, like every other group, that have bad business practices.
Yep.
The difference is they don't throw out the baby with the bathwater. It is amazing to me. Philip, I want to know if it's amazing to you. Kenneth, we talked about this. It is amazing to me that I looked this up today, or looked this up earlier this week. There are less than 10 Black-owned grocery stores in the country. That's mind-boggling to me. Less than 10 in the country. There used to be a Black grocery store during segregation in every Black community in the country.
It's not mind-boggling to me, Leonard. Let me tell you why.
Sure.
Living in Panama, and this is the thing that I was talking to Kenneth about last night or early this morning, I realized something that I'd been naive about. And like I said, it goes back to people traveling and going to see other cultures. I realized that we think that this is specific to us. I watch Panamanians treat each other the same way. Like, Panamanians scale from as white to as dark as me. And they are critical and racist against their own people. And I'll give you an example. And I'll get back to the answer to your question. You'll have they call them indigenous. They call them natives. These are the indigenous Panamanians. They live literally in the bush, in the woods, in the wilderness, whatever you want to call it. They live off the land. The way they live off the land is survival. If you live next to them and you have a house, you got livestock or whatever, and they're hungry, they're going to come to your property, steal your livestock, kill your animals to eat and survive. That's the way they survive. That's the way they know. Now, normally, if you're in the U.S. and somebody does that, you calling the police or you pulling out your gun. There's an understanding that in every culture, there's a group of people that pull on the resources of the land. Every culture. And I watch a Panamanian born and raised say, I can't stand freaking Indians. That's what they call them in Panama. It's Indians, the native indigenous people. They said, I can't stand freaking Indians. I'm like, wait, aren't they Panamanians too? Yeah, but them freaking Indians are something else. So this goes on not just here. It goes on everywhere else. Now, back to the grocery stores. That's by design. Because you got to understand, Public Enemy had it right back in the day. And Kenneth knows what I'm talking about. Leonard, you should know what I'm talking about too. Their album was called what? Fear of a Black Planet. Fear. Do you know that we are the most feared in the entire world, in almost every region of the world? People of color, especially of dark color. That fear is so great. And I didn't understand the extent of it until I started doing more traveling. And I realized that, first of all, Africans in general are a peaceful people. They're not a warring people. Yeah, you'll have warring tribes that battle, but in the end, there are no moats, there are no castles and walls, because we don't have to protect ourselves from our enemies because we didn't have any enemies. We had tribal conflicts. That's it. But we're a peaceful people. I kind of see the Democrats being Africans because they know the things they should do. They're just too docile to do them. You got some that are bulldogs that'll go after and get stuff done, but you got some that are, we take the high road. Yeah, we know we know there was some fraud in the election, but we're going to go ahead and pass the baton because that's what good wholesome people do. We don't have more grocery stores in our communities by design because they know that, look, we know what our people like. We're not going to feed our people. We're going to try to feed our people the best food if we can. Our farmers grew some of the best foods, best fruits and vegetables back in the day. You know what they did to those farmers? They removed their subsidies so they couldn't purchase products like seeds and livestock to make sure that they couldn't produce those best products. Then you got Jimmy John down the street. He's got garbage. The squash got holes in it, tomatoes all soggy and soft, but they're giving him a grant to pay for his brand new John Deere tractors because they know that Jimmy John will keep your great uncle from producing, and that'll keep them on top. You got to understand, there was one TikTok, the guy said, all we want to do is keep the white Christian male on top. That's the bottom line. Knowing that information, like Kenneth said, we get the books and we just eat the pages. How about opening the book and reading it to see what's in it? People tell you who they are, believe what they tell you. If you know how the game is going to be played, why not become better at playing the game instead of complaining and sitting there saying, oh, well, he no longer has his foot on your neck. You can walk freely. But now you need to follow his path and see what he's doing. Get better at it than him. And that's the only way we're going to get better.
What I would say is this. Look, guys. Kenneth heard me start. I don't want y'all to take this personally. I don't have the luxury of intellectual masturbation sessions. I am in a community, and I am literally in a vulnerable community. 2 days ago, I was literally called to my middle school for one of the kids that has lived with me. And I didn't realize till I got there how many kids knew me because of this kid. Yesterday, I was down at my civic association talking to one of the Nation of Islam's captains who knows me. What I'm trying to tell you guys is this. As somebody that's on the ground, that's dealing with it every day when I get off work, because I got to work, I got to eat. Both of y'all know that I still have to make a living, which is in and of itself not problematic. It's just another added stressor. You're trying to do this, but you still got to live. That we have a masculinity problem in our community. That is our fault. It's not my daddy's fault. My daddy and the men in his community, they set the rules for their community. And they didn't even talk to each other that much. Some of them were Kappa, some were Afro, some were in the Boule, some were not, some were military, some were because we're at Fort Gordon. Bellmead had this diverse, but we had drug dealers in the neighborhood who understood the rules of engagement. And what I see and what I keep telling people like us is I don't have the luxury. We are in an emergency situation. And if conversations like this, the three of us and people who are watching, Philip, wait a minute, I assume agrees with Elon Musk. I'm going to deal with that in a second, Marion. If we don't start having those conversations immediately, and I mean yesterday, we are in such a checkmated situation. And Philip, I don't know if you notice about me. This is what I tell people. This is what I'm on, because this is what I've been looking at for the last, because I just want to know, if push came to shove and shit hit the fan, what could we do as a large group? There is no right of return for any of us to go anywhere. There is nobody that is going to invite 20 plus million African Americans to come to their country. They will shut the borders down. I don't care if you go to Mexico. I don't care if you go to Canada. We tried this experiment in Liberia. We even had problems there in the Liberian experience. Robert Tolbert, if you want to look him up, y'all from Tuskegee, y'all should know who Robert Tolbert was. Mm-hmm. No one. This is what we got. I got 42 million brothers and sisters here. 42 million that I have. Some people will say, no, you don't. I say, well, that's on you. I have some moral responsibility to try to give them as much protection as I can. And how do I do that? I have a moral responsibility that Black women feel safe within my fence. We have because if we aren't going to protect Black women and children, what is being a man? I'm not getting into the relationship issues of that. I'm just talking about the general narrative of a Black woman, or you and Kenneth feeling like, if I pick up the phone, I have this alliance with Leonard Watkins that says, all I have to do is pick up the phone. I have an example of saying, Leonard, where you at? My only response should be, Philip, where do you need me to be? And you should have the confidence that I am going to show up to do what you need me to do so that you can feel safe where you are. And until we change that narrative, almost everything, all the knowledge that Philip and I have, and Kenneth you have, will be for naught because they won't listen. If people don't feel safe, and I say this, and people think I'm crazy when I say this, I go, you ever notice how nobody says a goddamn thing about the Aryan Nation? We are so diametrically different, me and the Aryan Nation. But I'm going to be real careful before I say something about whoever the leader is. Because you know why? Somebody may walk up to my house in the blackest of neighborhood, ring that doorbell and say, hey, so-and-so told me to tell you hello. And I get the message that there are consequences to your behavior.
That's right. And
we are in a community that, unless y'all can show me differently, I'm a rational man. I don't believe my ideas have to be. Me and Marion have been talking about this all week. I've called Marion 3 times this week and say, hey, man, just tell me if I'm crazy. Because if I'm crazy, I want somebody I trust to tell me, no, you way off base with this. I can give Philip the baton to say, Philip, you got all this knowledge. If I can't speak the language and he can't speak the language to get the message across, and he doesn't feel safe about speaking the language, we are stuck. And so the question becomes, when are we, us three more like us, who outnumber every demographic of men in this country? Most of us who are, Kenneth, you heard me say this. The only thing we probably have in common is that somewhere, somehow, you were raised in the Christian church. Somewhere. We might not be practicing Christians, but we outnumber every other sub-demographic in our groups. And we have not taken over to say, here go the rules of engagement in this community. and you don't follow these rules of engagement, it's a fuck around, find out moment. And little black boys do not see masculinity in us. And you can say what's masculine to me, and I'm gonna say, okay, and what good is that doing? Until we get to this point and stop making it. Somebody told me that you're radical. And I go, I'm like the most peaceful person I know. Like I really am. I'm like the most peaceful person I know. I don't like confrontation.